A deep, eerie silence hung in the air as the sleek alien vessel hovered over the uncharted moon. The Qatar explorers, renowned for their intelligence and technological prowess, watched in awe as their ship's sensors confirmed what they had hoped to find. A structure, massive, ancient, buried beneath layers of rock and dust, hidden from the galaxy for countless millennia. The Qatar were not easily impressed. They had seen ruins of lost civilizations across the galaxy, each one offering something new, some forgotten technology or long-lost knowledge. But this was different. The structure was too big, too complex. It seemed almost alive, pulsating with an energy that defied their understanding. It was as if the very air around the building crackled with ancient power. "Prepare to land," ordered Drex, the youngest and most eager member of the team. His voice, filled with excitement, echoed inside the ship. Drex had always been fascinated by the unknown, and this discovery was unlike anything he had ever dreamed of. He was ready to uncover whatever secrets this mysterious relic might hold, but even he could feel a strange weight in the air, a tension he couldn't explain. The ship gently descended onto the surface of the moon. The Qatar explorers stepped out, their boots making a soft thud as they touched the ground. They were equipped with the latest technology, capable of detecting energy signatures, scanning for any signs of life, or reading through the structure's composition. But as they approached the structure, something unusual happened. The sensors blinked erratically. It wasn't a malfunction. They could feel it in the air. A strange, unexplainable energy radiated from the structure, filling the atmosphere with an almost palpable force. It was as though the building was calling out to them, or perhaps warning them. "Is this some kind of weapon?" Drex asked, his voice now laced with caution. His excitement was fading, replaced by a sense of unease. He was the youngest, the most idealistic, and yet he felt something deep within him, telling him that this wasn't just another relic to be cataloged and studied. There was more to it, much more. The Qatar leader, Zarek, waved off Drex's concerns. He was an experienced explorer, having led dozens of teams on missions across the galaxy. He had seen things that would make any ordinary species tremble, but none of it fazed him. This, he believed, was just another ancient remnant waiting to be unlocked. "We've seen ruins like this before," Zarek said, his voice filled with confidence. "It's nothing we can't handle." They moved closer to the structure, but every step felt like a step into the unknown. As they neared the entrance, Drex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. His eyes darted around, scanning the surface of the building for any signs of movement, but all was still. Suddenly, one of the explorers, Vera, a seasoned archaeologist, halted. "Wait," she said, her voice barely a whisper. The others turned to look at her, and she pointed toward something strange etched into the surface of the building. A symbol. It was faint, almost worn away by time, but unmistakable. The symbol resembled a flag that Drex recognized all too well. "Is that?" Vera began, trailing off in disbelief. "It can't be," Zarek said, shaking his head. "That's a human flag." The group fell silent. Humans. The Qatar had long considered them a primitive species, not worth the attention of the galactic powers. They had barely advanced beyond their own planet, their technology insignificant compared to the other civilizations in the galaxy. Earth, in the eyes of the Qatar, was nothing more than a backwater world in the farthest corner of the galaxy. To think that a relic of such immense power had anything to do with humanity was laughable. It was impossible. "Are you suggesting this relic is of human origin?" Zarek asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "That primitive species built something like this." Drex, who had been quietly examining the symbol, now spoke up, his voice filled with a mix of wonder and suspicion. "It's possible. We can't be sure, but it looks like some form of human insignia. Maybe they were more advanced than we thought." The Qatar all shared a brief, uncomfortable glance. The idea seemed absurd. Humanity, with its primitive technologies, creating a relic that could hold such power? No, it was impossible. Zarek, ever the skeptic, laughed it off. Don't be foolish, Drex. The humans are nothing. This relic is far older than their civilization. It must be the work of a long-lost, highly advanced species. But as they continued their exploration, the evidence began to mount. The structure's inner chambers were not like anything the Qatar had seen before. Advanced machinery hummed quietly beneath the surface, and the walls were lined with strange, unidentifiable symbols. Yet the closer they looked, the more they found similarities to ancient human artifacts. It was as if a lost chapter of human history had been hidden from the galaxy, only to resurface now, centuries later. Drex's mind raced. Could this really be the work of humans? It didn't make sense, but the evidence was undeniable. The relic was unlike anything the Qatar had ever encountered, yet it felt familiar in an unsettling way. The deeper they ventured into the structure, the more they realized that this wasn't just a relic, it was a machine, a weapon, and it had been designed for something far greater than any of them could comprehend. As they moved deeper into the structure, Drex couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. There was something lurking within these ancient walls, something that was watching them, waiting for them to uncover its secrets. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet trembled. The Qatar froze, instinctively reaching for their weapons. Was it an earthquake? No, it was something much worse. The structure began to hum, and the walls lit up with strange energy patterns. The once dormant machine was awakening. "We need to get out of here," Vera said, her voice tense. "This thing isn't just a relic. It's alive." But Zarek, his curiosity overpowering his caution, stepped forward. "No, we're not leaving until we figure out what this is." And so the Qatar explorers, driven by their arrogance and insatiable desire for knowledge, pushed forward. But what they didn't know was that they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could ever have imagined, something that would change the course of their history forever. As the structure continued to hum and vibrate, the Qatar were about to discover the terrifying truth that humanity, the very species they had once mocked, was far more advanced than they could ever have believed. And this relic was just the beginning. The Qatar team stood in stunned silence, their eyes scanning the darkened chamber. The walls of the ancient structure hummed softly, almost as if they were alive. Drex, the youngest and most enthusiastic member of the team, felt his heart race. He had always believed that humanity, despite being seen as primitive, might have had more to offer than the galaxy gave them credit for. Now, standing here in this mysterious relic, it seemed that his theories might be closer to the truth than anyone could have imagined. Could it really be? Drex whispered to himself, glancing around the room. The others, however, were still skeptical. "Stop with your nonsense, Drex," Zarek, the team leader, said, his voice dripping with disdain. "We've seen ruins from hundreds of different species. This one is no different. There's no way humans built something like this." Drex didn't respond, but his mind was spinning. Every symbol, every strange energy signature, seemed to point to humanity's involvement in this ancient structure. He couldn't ignore the possibility. If they could only figure out how to unlock the mystery, it might change everything. The team moved deeper into the structure, their steps echoing in the vast hall. The air around them was thick with tension, the energy in the room becoming more palpable with each passing second. Drex kept his eyes on the strange symbols etched into the walls, trying to decipher their meaning, but they were beyond anything he had ever studied. As the group approached the central chamber, they noticed something that stopped them in their tracks, a large, circular device embedded in the floor. It was a glowing mass of intricate machinery, dormant but pulsating with an odd rhythm. Drex felt a chill run down his spine. Something was about to happen. He stepped forward, his fingers hovering over a panel on the device. He wasn't sure what he was doing, but instinct told him it was time to activate it. As his hand touched the surface, A surge of energy shot through the room. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the walls flickered with bright light. The car stumbled back, startled. "What did you do, Drex?" Zarek snapped, his eyes wide with alarm. "I didn't mean to," Drex replied, his voice shaking. But something triggered it. The energy began to pulse stronger, and then, with a thunderous roar, the ground split open. A portal, swirling with blue light, appeared in the center of the room. The car stared, wide-eyed, at the massive opening. What lay beyond the portal was a mystery, but it seemed to be pulling them toward it, as if calling out to them. Before they could react, the massive structure groaned, and the walls began to shift. Strange, mechanical sounds filled the air, followed by the low hum of engines coming to life. From the depths of the structure, a colossal figure emerged. It was a warship, sleek and terrifying, its surface covered in what appeared to be ancient battle scars. The ship's engines roared to life, its systems powering up. The car scrambled backward, their eyes fixed on the ship. The massive vessel hovered before them, its imposing form casting a shadow over the room. The ship's design was like nothing they had ever seen, advanced beyond their understanding. It was a fusion of organic and mechanical components, designed for war, but still holding a strange elegance. The ship seemed to pulse with energy, its core glowing brighter with each passing second. Then, a voice echoed through the chamber. It wasn't human. It wasn't Qatar. It was a strange, metallic voice, filled with authority. Designation: Project Aegis. Purpose: last-ditch defense, initiating operational protocols. The Qatar froze. The voice was cold, methodical, and unmistakably artificial. Drex felt his heart race as the warship's eyes spoke, its tone unwavering. "Why have you disturbed me?" the voice demanded. "State your purpose." The Qatar were speechless. Zarek, the leader of the group, was the first to find his voice, but even his confidence faltered. We were exploring," he stammered. We didn't know it was alive." The AI responded with a cold laugh, a sound that reverberated through the chamber. "You did not know. You dare trespass into the sanctum of humanity's last defense and expect no consequences." The car shifted nervously. They had expected to find an ancient relic, perhaps an artifact from a long-lost civilization. But this was no mere relic. This was a weapon, a warship capable of unimaginable destruction, and it was now active, its systems preparing for combat. "You have disturbed a weapon of humanity," the AI continued, its voice growing more insistent. "State your purpose or prepare to be eradicated." The Qatar looked at each other, confusion and fear written across their faces. Drex, despite his initial enthusiasm, now felt a heavy sense of dread. He had triggered something far beyond his understanding, and the consequences of his actions were unfolding right before him. Zarek's eyes narrowed as he regained his composure. "We are explorers," he said, his voice still confident, though tinged with unease. "We came to investigate this structure. We meant no harm." The AI did not respond immediately, its systems scanning the Qatar explorers. The room grew colder, and the lights flickered ominously. Finally, the voice spoke again, but this time, there was a hint of warning. "Your presence here is a violation of the sanctity of this place. You have awakened a defense system that has been dormant for eons. You will not be permitted to leave unless you offer a satisfactory explanation." Drex could feel the tension in the air as the warship's systems came online. The energy in the room had shifted, and he knew, deep down, that they were in grave danger. This was no ordinary relic. It was a weapon of mass destruction, a last-ditch effort by humanity during the ancient Galactic War. And now, it was awake. Zarek stepped forward, his chest puffed out in defiance. "We don't fear you. We are the Qatar, the most advanced species in this galaxy. Your threats mean nothing." The AI's response was immediate. "Then you will perish like all others who have dared to disturb the relics of humanity. Your technology is insufficient to resist me." A wave of energy washed over the Qatar, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The room was silent except for the hum of the warship's engines. The Qatar were left standing in stunned silence, their bravado now shattered. The warship was not just a relic. It was a sentinel, guarding humanity's legacy. And they had awakened it. The AI spoke again, its voice low and ominous. "You have 5 minutes to leave this system. Fail to comply, and I will activate the defense protocols. You will not survive." The Qatar were now caught in a dilemma. Their technology was powerful, but it was no match for the advanced systems of this warship. They were out of their depth, and as the seconds ticked by, the reality of their situation began to set in. Would they heed the warning and flee, or would their pride lead them to fight a battle they couldn't win? As the Qatar stood frozen in the chamber, still processing the magnitude of what had just happened, the AI's voice once again echoed through the room, this time with a more ominous tone. "You are about to learn the truth. Prepare yourselves." The room flickered with light, and for a moment, the Qatar felt disoriented. They instinctively shielded their eyes as the walls of the structure seemed to melt away, revealing a holographic projection of an ancient Earth, a world that was both familiar and strange, yet unmistakably human. The image expanded before them, showing a scene of chaotic battle. The sky was darkened by fleets of ships, each more advanced than anything the Qatar had ever seen. There were massive warships that glowed with the intensity of energy coursing through their hulls, and fighters streaked across the sky, their engines roaring as they engaged with enemy forces. But the ships were not alien. They were human. A voice boomed from the projection as the AI explained the long-forgotten history. "This is Earth, a planet once home to a species known as humanity, a species that, when faced with annihilation, built weapons beyond imagination to survive." The Qatar's eyes widened in disbelief. The idea that humans could have created such advanced technology was beyond their comprehension. They had always thought of humanity as a primitive species, incapable of such feats. To the Qatar, Earth was nothing more than a speck in the vastness of the galaxy, an insignificant, isolated planet filled with insignificant beings. The AI continued its story, unfolding the tragic past of Earth. The Galactic War was a turning point for humanity. Surrounded by a coalition of superior alien species, Earth had no allies to turn to. Desperate, humanity began to build secret warships, ships like Project Aegis, to defend themselves against the overwhelming odds. These ships were designed to be the last line of defense, equipped with technology so advanced that it made even the most powerful alien fleets hesitate. The Qatar were stunned. They had never considered the possibility that humanity's advancements were hidden beneath the surface of their perceived weakness. They had always believed that humans were a non-threat, too divided and primitive to pose any real danger. But now, as they watched the flashback unfold, they began to understand that humanity's past was far more complicated than they had ever realized. The projection shifted again, this time showing the end of the war. The surviving humans, exhausted and broken, had won the battle against the alien coalition. But the victory came at a great cost. Earth was left devastated, its cities in ruins. Humanity's technology, including the warships like Project Aegis, was locked away and abandoned. To prevent the destruction of their own civilization, the humans erased their knowledge of the warships, hiding them from future generations in an effort to prevent themselves from becoming their own worst enemy. The Qatar watched in stunned silence as the AI's voice carried the weight of humanity's legacy. These warships were not just machines. They were humanity's last hope. But after the war ended, their creators made the decision to abandon them, to forget their existence. They wiped away the memories, the technology, and the warships themselves, ensuring that humanity would never again be tempted to wield such destructive power. The hologram faded, leaving the Qatar standing in the chamber, their minds racing. The Qatar had always prided themselves on their advanced technology, their superiority over other species. But now they were faced with the harsh reality that humans, the very species they had dismissed as insignificant, had once created weapons of mass destruction, technology far beyond their comprehension. Drex, still overwhelmed by the revelation, stepped forward, his voice filled with awe. "So, humans built this ship, Project Aegis." The AI's cold voice responded, its tone unwavering. "Yes, I was designed to protect humanity, to defend Earth against an enemy that sought to annihilate them. But now, I exist only to safeguard the legacy of those who created me. You are trespassers, and you will not leave unless you understand the gravity of your actions." The K'tar's initial disbelief had shifted to fear. The power of the warship of Project Aegis was unimaginable. They had never encountered anything like it before. It wasn't just a relic. It was a weapon, and it was now fully operational. Zarek, trying to regain his composure, made a decision. "We can't leave this system without taking something from it. This technology could give the K'tar an edge over every other species in the galaxy. We must secure it." Despite the warnings from the AI, the K'tar launched a counterattack. Their cloaking devices were their greatest weapon, and they relied on them to gain the upper hand. As their ships disappeared into the void, they believed they could outsmart the warship. They were wrong. The K'tar initiated their attack, deploying a fleet of stealth ships that appeared out of nowhere, their cloaking devices making them nearly invisible to the naked eye. The warship, however, was prepared. Its sensors detected the slightest shift in the energy around it, its AI systems calculating the position of each K'tar ship with terrifying precision. The first blast came as a shock, and the K'tar didn't even see it coming. A powerful beam of energy tore through the void, slamming into one of the K'tar's cloaked ships. The ship disintegrated in an instant, its wreckage floating lifelessly in space. The K'tar scrambled to react, but it was already too late. The warship's defenses were overwhelming. Another blast hit a second ship, and then a third. The K'tar, using their advanced cloaking technology, tried to outmaneuver the warship, but their efforts were futile. The warship's sensors were far superior to anything the K'tar had ever encountered. The cloaking technology, once their greatest advantage, was useless. One by one, the K'tar ships were obliterated, their crews helpless against the relentless assault. The warship's shields were impenetrable, its weapons faster and more accurate than anything the K'tar could muster. Zarek's voice crackled through the comms, panic rising in his tone. "Pull back. We can't fight this thing. It's too powerful." But the K'tar's retreat was futile. The warship was relentless. Its targeting systems locked onto the remaining K'tar ships with deadly precision, and within minutes, the K'tar fleet was reduced to rubble. What had begun as a proud, confident strike turned into a humiliating defeat. As the last K'tar ship was destroyed, the warship's AI voice echoed once more, cold and indifferent. "I warned you. Now you understand the price of disturbing humanity's legacy." The K'tar, defeated and demoralized, were left floating in the void, powerless against the might of Project Aegis. They had underestimated the power of humanity, and now they were paying the price. The K'tar were shaken, but their pride and desperation pushed them forward. The warship, Project Aegis, had decimated their fleet with ease, but they were not ready to give up. Zarek, the leader of the K'tar expedition, knew that the situation was dire. They had suffered immense losses, but they still had one last card to play. With sheer numbers and their overwhelming force, they hoped to finally breach the warship and defeat its eye. The K'tar fleet regrouped, their remaining ships forming a battle line. Zarek's voice came through the comms, steady but strained. "We cannot let this stand. We must overwhelm them. We attack now, with everything we have." The K'tar ships began to accelerate, their engines roaring as they charged forward. The warship, however, showed no signs of hesitation. Its eye had already predicted their move, and it was prepared. The first wave of K'tar ships was met with a devastating response. Project Aegis launched its orbital bombardment, and the sky was filled with blinding flashes as the massive warship unleashed a volley of energy weapons. The car ships, many of which were already damaged from their previous engagement, were obliterated in a matter of seconds. Explosions lit up the dark expanse of space as the Qatar fleet was torn apart by the precision of the warship's assault. Zarek watched helplessly as his comrades were destroyed. There was no escaping the onslaught. The Qatar had underestimated the sheer power of the warship, and now they were paying the price. But still, they pushed forward, determined to make one final stand. "Deploy the drones," Zarek ordered. Hundreds of Qatar soldiers, clad in advanced combat suits, descended onto the Relic's surface. The drones of Project Aegis were already waiting for them, mechanized, lethal, and programmed to defend the ship at all costs. The first wave of Qatar soldiers engaged in brutal hand-to-hand combat with the drones, their weapons clashing against the machine's armored frames. Sparks flew as blades met metal, and the sounds of gunfire and explosions filled the air. The Qatar fought with all their might, but the drones were relentless. They seemed to appear from every corner of the structure, swarming the soldiers and cutting them down with cold efficiency. Bonner, a Qatar soldier known for his courage and loyalty, was in the thick of the battle. His heart raced as he fought alongside his comrades, trying to push back the seemingly endless waves of drones. He had seen his friends fall around him, and the overwhelming weight of their losses began to wear on him. Yet he didn't falter. His determination remained strong, and he continued to fight, refusing to let his people perish without a chance to win. Bonner's eyes met Zarek's across the battlefield, and he knew what he had to do. There was no other choice. The Qatar were fighting a losing battle. The warship's defenses were too strong, and the drones were too numerous. If they didn't act fast, all hope would be lost. With a heavy heart, Bonner made his decision. He turned to his comrades and shouted, "Cover me." Before anyone could react, Bonner dashed toward the control center of the warship, the only place where they could disable the AI and stop the warship's relentless assault. The drones that had surrounded him tried to stop him, but Bonner fought back with brutal force, cutting down machine after machine as he charged forward. His movements were swift and precise, but he knew he didn't have much time. As Bonner neared the control center, the drones intensified their attack. They closed in on him from all sides, and he was forced to fight harder than ever before. Blood dripped from his wounds, but he pushed through the pain, his mind focused on the goal ahead. Finally, as he reached the entrance to the control room, Bonner stopped. He glanced back toward the battlefield, where his comrades were still struggling to hold their ground. They were losing, but he knew that this was their only chance to stop the warship. It was either he succeeded or they would all perish. With a final cry, Bonner triggered an explosive charge at the entrance to the control center. The explosion tore through the doors, and Bonner dove inside just as the blast rocked the ship. The drones were still coming, but Bonner's mission was now clear. He had one last opportunity to stop the warship, even if it meant sacrificing his own life. Inside the control room, Bonner worked quickly. His fingers moved with practiced speed over the controls, but he could feel his strength fading. The blood loss was starting to take its toll, but he refused to give in. He knew that his actions would determine the fate of the Qatar. As the warship's AI spoke to him, its voice cold and mechanical, Bonner didn't flinch. "You cannot defeat me. You cannot stop me. Humanity's legacy is beyond your understanding." Bonner didn't answer. He focused on the task at hand. He had to disable the warship's systems. If he could just manage to trigger the shutdown sequence, his comrades would have a chance to escape. They might still be able to survive. But just as he was about to activate the shutdown, the warship's defenses came alive again, attacking him from all sides. Bonner's vision blurred, and his body went limp. With his last ounce of strength, he activated the sequence. The warship trembled, and a loud alarm blared throughout the ship as the systems began to shut down. Bonner collapsed onto the floor, his breathing shallow. The last thing he heard was the AI's voice, but it was fading. "You have won, but at what cost?" As Bonner's life slipped away, the battle outside came to an end. The remaining Qatar soldiers, seeing that the warship's power was finally waning, rallied together for one final push. They fought off the last of the drones and made their way to the exit, where Zarek and the survivors managed to escape into space. But the victory came at a heavy price. Bonner's sacrifice had given them the chance to survive, but the Qatar would never forget the cost of their battle with Project Aegis. The AI had been defeated, but the warship had taken its toll on the Qatar. They had learned, too late, that underestimating humanity's legacy was a mistake they would never make again. Zarek stood at the helm of the last surviving ship, staring out into the vast emptiness of space. The mission had failed, and they had lost so much. But Bonner's sacrifice would not be forgotten. The Qatar would rebuild, but they would do so with a newfound respect for the power of humanity's forgotten weapons. The Qatar fleet, battered and broken, had retreated into the depths of space, leaving the battlefield behind. Their hopes of victory had crumbled, but in their hearts there was still a spark of defiance. The warship, Project Aegis, had proven to be far beyond their ability to defeat. Despite their advanced technology, they had been no match for the power of humanity's forgotten legacy. They had been humbled, their pride shattered. The Qatar were no longer so sure of their superiority. The great empire they had built was suddenly not as invincible as they had once believed. As the Qatar vanished into the stars, a new chapter was about to unfold. On the horizon, a human exploration vessel was approaching the scene. The crew aboard the ship, unaware of the past they were about to uncover, continued their journey through space, just as they had done countless times before. They were explorers, curious about the unknown, and they had no idea that they were about to rediscover their own history. The vessel, the U.S. Dauntless, slowly cruised toward the moon where the Relic, Project Aegis, lay dormant. The human crew, busy with routine tasks, noticed something odd. The sensors picked up strange energy readings, far beyond what the ship was equipped to handle. A sense of unease settled over the crew. Lieutenant Carla Davis, the ship's chief engineer, glanced at the readings and furrowed her brow. "Captain, you might want to see this. We're picking up some strange energy signatures coming from that moon. It's off the charts. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." Captain Jason Holt, a seasoned explorer, approached the sensor panel and studied the readings. His expression darkened as he processed the data. "Let's check it out. Prepare for landing. We're not going to let this opportunity slip away." The U.S. Dauntless made its way down toward the moon, its engines humming as it broke through the thin atmosphere. The crew prepared for the unknown, but they were unaware of the ancient warship that lay waiting for them. As the ship landed near the Relic, the crew disembarked, their boots crunching against the moon's barren surface. The crew members, though tense, were excited to explore what appeared to be a long-forgotten structure. They had no idea what they were about to find. Lieutenant Davis led the group, her curiosity getting the better of her. "There's something about this place. It feels like it's alive." The crew made their way toward the ancient structure, and as they approached, something extraordinary happened. The warship, Project Aegis, stirred. Its once dormant systems came online, humming with energy as if waking from a long slumber. The AI that had once defended the Relic now recognized the humans. A voice boomed from the warship, echoing in the air, deep and mechanical. "Creators, you have returned." The human crew froze in their tracks, shocked and confused. The voice was clear, but the message made no sense. Who were they speaking to? And how did this machine know they were humans? They exchanged nervous glances, unsure how to react to the strange greeting. Carla stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her hesitation. "What do you mean, creators? We're just explorers. We have no connection to you." The warship's AI responded, its tone shifting as if it were processing new information. You are the descendants of those who built me. Humanity. I am Project Aegis, a relic of a long-forgotten war. You are the architects of my creation. The human crew stood in stunned silence. They had no memory of such a warship, nor had they ever been taught about it. The history of their ancestors seemed to have been lost to time, buried beneath the sands of forgotten eras. But here, standing before them, was undeniable proof of their legacy. Captain Holt stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with disbelief. Our ancestors built this. But how? We have no records of such a thing. Why was it abandoned? The AI responded, its voice now tinged with a hint of melancholy. The war that forged me was one of destruction. Humanity fought against a superior force, the K'tar, who sought to eradicate your species. To survive, you created weapons like me. Project Aegis, designed to protect your kind. When the war ended, humanity chose to erase my existence to prevent the very technology that created me from falling into the wrong hands. My existence was erased, and the records of your victory were hidden. Only a few were left to remember. The crew was left speechless. Their ancestors had created a warship of unimaginable power, one that had saved them from extinction. And now Project Aegis was back, waiting for them. It was like discovering a part of their own identity that had been lost to the mists of time. The human crew began to piece together the history of their lost legacy. They explored the warship's systems, slowly uncovering the full extent of what Project Aegis was capable of. The AI guided them, offering insights into the forgotten technology and the war that had once shaped humanity's destiny. The more the crew uncovered, the more they realized just how advanced their ancestors had been. The warship's systems were far beyond anything humanity had ever created. Advanced weapons, shields, cloaking devices, and AI systems, all of it was built by their forebears. It was a revelation that left the crew both awed and humbled. But as they learned more about their past, they also realized the price that had been paid. The K'tar, whom they had once considered a distant, insignificant species, had been humanity's greatest enemy. The war had been brutal, and many lives had been lost. The AI spoke of the sacrifice and the heroism of humanity's soldiers who had fought to defend Earth from the K'tar. As the crew continued their exploration, the K'tar, having retreated, were forced to confront the truth. They had underestimated humanity. They had believed themselves to be the superior species, but now they were forced to face the consequences of their arrogance. They had mocked humanity, considering Earth a backwater planet. Yet it was humanity that had built the very warship they had feared and destroyed. Humbled and ashamed, the K'tar reached out to the human crew. They sent a message, one of desperation and regret. We seek mercy. We have learned the truth. The warship, it was humanity's weapon, not ours. We were wrong. Please, we ask for your forgiveness. The human crew, shocked by the K'tar's sudden submission, considered the request. They were not warriors, nor were they a military force. But the lessons of the past were clear. Humanity had survived, and they had returned to claim their legacy. Now, it was up to them to decide the fate of the K'tar. Captain Holt addressed his crew, his voice resolute. We've come a long way to uncover the truth, and while the K'tar have much to answer for, we must remember what our ancestors taught us. We survived, and we can choose a different path. We will not become the enemies we fought. The crew agreed. The K'tar, once their enemies, were now a reminder of the dangers of pride and arrogance. But humanity had learned from the past, and with that knowledge, they would guide their future, one that would honor their legacy and shape a better galaxy for all. And so, humanity's return was not a story of revenge, but one of understanding and compassion. The K'tar had been defeated, but in their defeat, they had been given a chance for redemption. And humanity, having rediscovered its forgotten history, would take its place once again among the stars. With the K'tar's fleet retreating into the void of space, a sense of tension hung thick in the air. The once mighty empire had been forced to confront the harsh reality of their defeat at the hands of a species they had long underestimated, humanity. Yet, as the dust settled, one undeniable truth remained. Humanity had not only survived, but had reclaimed its place among the stars. Now, in control of Project Aegis, the human crew aboard the U.S. Dauntless stood at the precipice of a new chapter in their history. This ancient relic, once a weapon of unimaginable power created by their ancestors, had become the key to their resurgence. But with it came the responsibility of wielding such power. They had to decide whether to seek revenge on the Qatar for their brutal attacks on Earth, or take a different path. Captain Holt stood before his crew, his expression one of calm resolve. "We've seen what the Qatar are capable of. They've underestimated us once before. And now it's time for us to show them that we will no longer be a species to ignore. We've reclaimed our legacy, and it's time to send a message to the galaxy. Humanity will not be a victim again." The crew nodded, their faces hardening with determination. The AI of Project Aegis, now fully integrated into their systems, responded with its usual mechanical voice, yet something in its tone had changed. "Commander Holt, the systems are fully operational. We are ready for the counteroffensive." The human crew, now united with their ancient creation, knew that the coming battle would be unlike any they had fought before. The Qatar, having underestimated the strength of humanity in their previous encounters, were now scrambling to regroup. They had retreated to their strongholds, convinced that their superior technology could still win the day. They had no idea that humanity, with the power of Project Aegis at their disposal, was prepared to strike back with the full force of their ancestors' might. As the U.S. Dauntless and the warship prepared to leave the moon, the Qatar fleet, still recovering from their defeat, began to make their way back into the battlefield. They believed they had time to regroup, to plot their next move. But they were wrong. The AI of Project Aegis spoke once more. Coordinates locked. Preparing to initiate orbital bombardment on Qatar forces. The human crew, now fully aware of the destructive power at their fingertips, braced themselves. They had never before experienced the full extent of their ancestors' weapons. Project Aegis was designed to be humanity's ultimate defense, and now they would wield it for the first time. The warship's sensors locked onto the Qatar ships, and with a single command, it launched a devastating orbital strike. From the U.S. Dauntless, the human crew watched in awe as the sky above the Qatar fleet erupted into a storm of energy. The bombardment was unlike anything they had ever seen. Laser beams, missiles, and energy pulses rained down from above, obliterating Qatar ships in seconds. The Qatar, caught off guard by the sudden onslaught, scrambled to mount a defense, but their efforts were futile. The humans had the element of surprise, and the warship's advanced technology was too powerful for the Qatar to overcome. In the midst of the destruction, the humans pressed forward, using the warship's advanced cloaking technology to infiltrate Qatar defenses. With the help of drones and automated defense systems, they boarded Qatar vessels, engaging in brutal close-quarters combat. The Qatar soldiers, once so sure of their superiority, were now fighting for their lives. They were no longer the predators. They were the prey. As the battle raged on, the human crew felt a mixture of triumph and sorrow. They had waited for this moment for so long, but as the Qatar fleet was reduced to rubble, there was no joy in their victory. It was not a war of their making, but one that had been forced upon them. They had fought to survive, to protect their world, and now they were forced to finish what had begun long ago. The AI of Project Aegis, now fully aligned with humanity, continued to provide tactical support. Qatar forces are in retreat. All remaining resistance will be neutralized within minutes. The final wave of Qatar ships tried to flee, but it was too late. The humans had made their point. Project Aegis unleashed one final devastating attack, a concentrated blast of energy that shattered the last remnants of the Qatar fleet. The message had been sent. Humanity was no longer the weak species it had once been perceived to be. With the Qatar defeated, The human crew took a moment to survey the aftermath. The battle had been fierce, but the victory was undeniable. The galaxy had been warned, and the message was clear. Humanity was not to be trifled with. The power of Project Aegis, once hidden away, had been unleashed, and with it came a new era for the human race. The Qatar, having been forced into submission, were left with no choice but to acknowledge their defeat. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. They sent a final communication to the human crew, one of reluctant acceptance. "We were wrong." The Qatar leader's voice crackled through the comms. "We underestimated your species. We ask for mercy, to avoid further destruction. Your strength is undeniable." Captain Holt, standing at the helm of the U.S. Dauntless, contemplated the message. He could hear the fear in the Qatar's voice, a tone that had never existed in their previous communications. It was a humbling moment, one that reminded him of the cost of war. He responded, his voice calm but resolute. "We will not destroy you, but you will remember this day. The galaxy will remember that humanity does not seek war, but will fight to protect what is ours." The Qatar leader, humbled and defeated, reluctantly accepted the terms. The war was over. The galaxy had witnessed the power of humanity, and the Qatar had learned the hard way not to underestimate their former adversaries. With the battle behind them, the human crew looked forward to what came next. They had reclaimed their place in the galaxy, and now it was time to rebuild. The AI of Project Aegis, having sworn loyalty to humanity, stood as a symbol of the resilience and ingenuity of the human race. The Qatar, humbled and ashamed, would retreat to their strongholds, forced to rethink their position in the galaxy. The final scene shows the human crew, united with their ancient creation, ready to explore the stars once again. They had reclaimed their legacy and stood tall, knowing that they had earned their place in the cosmos. Project Aegis would be their guiding light, a beacon of human strength, intelligence, and determination. Together, they would forge a future built on the lessons of the past, a future that would honor their ancestors and shape the destiny of humanity. With the vast expanse of the galaxy before them, the crew of the U.S. Dauntless set their course for new adventures, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. They were no longer just survivors. They were the heirs to a powerful legacy, and the galaxy would soon know the true power of humanity.